Okay, so moving into another part, we have this satsang where we really, have these little discussions, contemplations, and understanding some of these yogic principles, yogic practices. So today, really, I want to take you through a little bit of, I guess, again, creating a foundation or understanding of Dharna, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So we got concentration, meditation, and then the absolute absorption, self-realization or enlightenment. And I'm going to say it again. I hope I can manage to plant some seeds for you to dwell into it, because really the concept, the principles of these three limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, you can spend the rest of your life, try to understand them, try to practice them. And the good news with these three, when you master them, you got nothing to learn and master anymore. You will be gone to. So hopefully you all can say, I don't think that the topic that we want to look into this module or this time around, it's something we can ever complete. It's just a very sort of, I guess, an advanced limb or the advanced aspect of practices. Couple of things before we begin to dwell into it. Just want to have that clear understanding and vision, even though somehow, when we use the technical words, we say, let's meditate, or I practice meditation, or I love doing my meditation. When we come to the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, and when you are going through the last 3, Dharna, which is concentration, Dhyana is meditation, and Samadhi is self-realization. Actually, meditation is not something you do or practice. And now and then, I guess for me, and I know that there's a technical, I don't think there is a way around, you can get around the words, but think of sometime we say, which is like, there is no any other way to say things like, oh, I love tasting the food. But what is the practice in it? So the practice is not really, you say, you actually take the food, you take it in your mouth and chew it. But the actual tasting of the food is really the essence of it. It's the experience. Can you do the experience? Can we practice it? So even though there is no any other way, and I'm trying to make it sure that you all understand that there is no any other way we can say it, but it actually, if you take it, dig into literal meaning, then it would not really make much sense. So meditation is not something we do, it's more or less of an experience we achieve or we attain. So the way Patanjali begins, he begins with Dharna. And I think when I come back to Patanjali, every time I think and look back at his teachings, I fell more and more in love with him for the teachings. So, the first thing he does, as we all try to lift our spirit up, and, we've done an hour of finding a positive way to see how we can get through all this, finding a new way to teach and stuff. So before Patanjali talks about it all, the first sutra he says, Dharnascha yogyata mansa. So he said, your mind holds the ability to focus, to concentrate, to hold the mind on one point. So to me, it means what he says to us, that if you question yourself, if you reason yourself, if you conflict yourself, am I good enough? Can I do it? Can I practice it? Is it my thing? Is my mind good enough? Is my body good enough? My senses good enough to do it? Of course it is. So that's what Patanjali says. Each mind that exists holds the ability to focus, to concentrate. And, let's take a negative example, which most people are good in doing. When we're stressed about something, how focused mind we can have. We just totally absorbed in that problem. And, as we all discussed about the day you all have done your session, that is the ability Patanjali is talking about. So if we can focus on that experience, well, we can focus our mind on any experience, any focus point. So the mind holds the ability to focus on one point. So to me here, when we come to Dharna, your step you need to understand really is choosing a point to focus your mind. So Patanjali says, Eka Tattva Abhyasa. So the Eka is one, the single, and Tattva is the element or the practice, a concept, a principle, an object. And Abhyasa is sort of following it, practicing it. So he said, choose one object, one practice, and one mantra, and meditate on it. Focus your mind, concentrate your mind on it. So, when we do our relaxations, when we wandering around and doing all that, in Dharna, Dhyana and Samadhi, those practices in classical traditions are known as visualizations or relaxation techniques. So they will fall under our pratyahara, okay, sensory withdrawal, because what you're doing in all the visualizations, whatever we're doing, any practice, either Loma Viloma or we did earlier, the heart, or we can do our Marmisthanam going from your feet all the way up to top of your head. Or maybe you have different sort of creative imagining visualizations. In those visualizations, you withdrawing your senses and your mind away from something and you focusing it on other thing. In that focus, there is an immense amount of opportunities or the focus points. There is lots of things going on. But when it comes to Dharana, then that focus point, to me, think of a bindu, a dot. If you have a pencil or pen, when you put it on the paper, that dot. Or also, I quite like to think of the flame on the candle. So that's where, to me, the first definition of three of these limbs come together is Samayama, Dharna, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Concentration, absorption, and transcendence is to focus more and more on less and less. So if you feel you are drawn to this path, then to me, that is the first mantra we can work on. It is to focus more and more on less and less. And when you're trying to do it, okay, when you're trying to do it, that is your concentration, that is your Dharna. So the Dharna, the sixth limb is our practice. And when your effort, when you're trying to do it, that becomes fruitful, that manifests. That absorption is dhyana, meditation. And way Patanjali says, when your mind is totally absorbed in that single pointed focus, that object you have chosen. Now, our object can be just sitting up and breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Now, when we do that, we have taken 2 breaths and then suddenly gone somewhere. And then you realize, oh, you come back to the breath, again, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. So that is your concentration, your Dharna. And then comes a point where there is a breath and there is you. That focus, that concentration becomes uninterrupted. It becomes unbroken. Like the river flows, like the wind flows. So your mind is absorbed in it. But still here, there is a sense of I, that experience is there. I feel the joy, I feel the pain. So the joy, the pain, or I feel the color, I feel the chakra, I feel the breath, I feel. So there is the experience, but the I is still there. And then we come to the next stage when that I has dissolved. It's only experience. It's only experience. Now, like so many other things you see with when we think of the Dharna, Dhyana, and Samadhi, there is so much mysticism got mixed in, as the yogi, the rishis in ancient time, I guess they actually used some of those examples, ideas to give us a foundation. There is like a tagline around the Kundalini that when your Kundalini rises, there is a snake going to wake up at the tail of your spine and it's going to fly through and reach to your crown. Well, I'm afraid to disappoint you all. There is no snake in your spine or your root chakra. That was a symbolic energy. So some of these symbolic way the rishis try to explain things to us, they did not mean them literally. I guess the path of, like, to me, even the pratyahara, the sensory withdrawal, these 4 practices are not really for intellectual practice. It's not something you can try to justify, you can try to intellectualize and then go in it. It's more of, you just have to pay the attention and just keep going into it and then experience it. It's like if you try to write a book on how does it feel to stand out in the sun and absorb the sunlight. How does it feel to just sit down and enjoy the water flow in a river? How does it feel to have the water falling on your head under a spring or a waterfall? How does it feel when you eat a healthy, a yummy, tasty meal? Or how does it feel when you just have a nice, comfortable, loving, supportive hug with somebody? You can write a book on it, but would that actually do any good? The book is good. I'm not saying that we should not share these teachings, but that intellectual part, it's just a base, a foundation. The true experience, the true practice begin when you can actually say, okay, somebody says how it feels to be in the sun, go out and stand in the sun. And then let go of the intellectual properties. Then you experience that heat, the warmth on your skin. Same in the river, you just let go and allow the water to flow and feel the sensations. So to me, the 4 aspects of the Patanjali or the Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs, we have to go beyond our intellectual property. Because intellectually, see, if you honestly, like these days, if you begin to, somebody meets you on the street and say, how are you feeling today? And say, oh, I've just done my sadhana and I'm just feeling blissful. Most people would not even get it. Like, what is wrong with you? I have come across many times when I meet with somebody and I say something really light, like positive and uplifting. This is like, what do you mean? Because intellectually, it's very hard to understand it. So this part of your yoga, your sadhana, is more of the experience. And this is why Patanjali uses the word antaranga. So far we were talking about bahiranga. The yoga that can be practiced with your physical body and outer limbs. And not only you, but other people can see and experience it. Now, some of you might be thinking how yamas and niyamas. Well, the yamas and niyamas are the ones easily can be observed by other people, because your behavior, your choices, your interactions, where you do things, other people will feel it more than you do. To me, suddenly you're like, I'm just going to practice the sense of kindness and forgiveness and all that. People you live with, they will be like more benefited than you might get benefit from it. And then that benefit, that fruit, that joy comes back to you. But with the Dhyana, Dharna and Samadhi, it's not something our intellectual mind can understand or can explain. So coming back to that simplest of the definition, it is to focus your mind more and more on less and less. So we got your effort when you're trying to focus it, Dharna, when it actually becomes fruitful, when your mind absorbs in it, Dhyana, meditation, and when that I, the ego, has transcended. Now, the one of the pure principle of this Samayama, this higher yoga, inner yoga, as the yogis believed, and I see that myself every day, you see your prana flows where your mind goes. And not only in meditation, I can tell you, when we look at each other, when we give a nice smile, a positive look, you can actually charge somebody else's life or somebody else's body. Person just feels like, I'm okay, I can do it. And you can give that twisted look to somebody, I don't know, trusty we call it, or there is another word, like sort of irsya, that the jealous kind of look, or like a selfish kind of look at somebody, judgmental look at somebody, and you can just make somebody feel like, oof. Because through that look, through that smile, that communication, wow, your prana is flowing. And the prana is filtered through or manipulated or colored with your mindset in it. So the yogi said, if the prana flows with the mind, let's gaze that mind, focus that mind on one point. So in that way, you can charge your body, you can charge your senses, you can charge your fingers, you can charge your nose, you can charge your taste. And it's something I experience as even I go through these intensive sort of sadhana courses every day. My taste, my flavors, and even my choices change with the group. Suddenly what we were testing 2-3 weeks ago, it tastes so different. And every day we eat food, everyone's like, wow, that was the best meal ever. And you know why? Because every day we are refining, and as you're refining, your focus, your awareness is growing, then your senses, your choices are also refining with it. So then we begin to experience what we have never experienced in that food. And because of that, then you feel like, wow, that's different, that's better than yesterday. And your life begins like that too. So suddenly you begin to experience everything that you never experienced before. And then you just think suddenly, wow, where all these things appear from? A couple of nights ago, we were just sitting out by one of the little water pond and having a bit of chat about things. And then suddenly we all stop talking. And then we begin to hear all these frogs and cricket. And then suddenly you just begin like, wow, is it like everything is waiting for you to be silent? And then the music of the forest, it just becomes enchanted. And I'm not sure how many of you remember, then we had a chat about it. Like the minute we stop, the whole forest talks. And same thing, honestly, like even in your house, wherever you are, how many noises are there that we don't notice? And the minute you sit quiet and like, okay, let's breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and then suddenly every noise begins to annoy you. Okay, that's obviously the first step. The ticking of the clock, the fridge, the fan, the electricity and oven, and everything comes alive. And it's just like, wow. So hopefully you can see when you become less and less, your senses, your perception, your awareness refines and becomes more subtle. And you begin to notice what you have never noticed before. And I think to me, something I advise each one of you when you're growing through the sadhana, and if you keep going through that sort of practices, please don't use your refined mind, your awareness, your perception to judge other people. It's really, really very important, because suddenly you grow into the practice and the people you were living for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, and suddenly you begin to see something different in them. And you're like, what happened? What do I do with it? What do I do with this person? I don't like this. Everything begins to annoy you. And especially the intensive group, when they go back home, when they try to go back into society, they would have to work on that aspect of their clarity. Because things maybe you would have been fine. Suddenly you go back and like the way people talk, the way people interact, and the way people eat and drink and stuff, you will just everything just going to be like. And you have to remind yourself that, yes, you have grown up, you have refined, you have changing your mindset, your perception. So to me, people who take these practices, this path, they got to be so much more mindful. Because if you begin to judge other people based on what do you feel and what do you see in them, it becomes very difficult. So as you're growing into these limbs, your choices, your awareness, your experience grows with it. Now, before I go any further, the couple of things, because I some reason also most people I know and talk to, they just think like, it's meditation to experience something of the mysticism or something beyond. Do I get to see my past, my future, and this and that, and my chakras, I'm going to see them spinning. And I'm not saying that experience is not there. But to me, if you really want to go deep into your meditation, your Samayama sadhana, you must let go of those expectations. And then because once you let go of that, then what you do, you begin to create the foundation of your sadhana, your experience. Now, some of you may think, I have never experienced meditation, and it's something this doesn't happen, because when we read books and when we listen to these people, what they talk about the experience of meditation seems to be too far away. But I tell you, your mind experiences meditation every day. Now, the Tantra explains that there is the Muhurta, they call it, that can be anywhere between 48 minutes to 3 hours, where we have the change into the cycle. So we move from the Surya, the right side into the left side, and then we move from Chandra, left side into right side. And in that transition between the Ida and Pingala, sympathetic and parasympathetic, we have around between 90 seconds to a couple of minutes, where the energy naturally flows or discharges into the Susumna. And this is why the yogis in the typical practices, they say, try to meditate for 48 minutes. And the reason they choose that, like the cycles of that, hopefully you can catch up with that minute. Because if you can catch up with that minute, you're trying to focus and meditate, and you have the natural energy flow. And now this is actually interesting for me from the Tantra about the meditation. And that's where you just get this boost of recharging of the crown, recharging of your cortex. And in that experience, each one of us can have the intense experience of whatever we are trying to focus. So if I was, say, meditating on a mandala, if I can catch up on that moment, then I will see the mandala. If I'm meditating on the Loma Viloma, the colors, in that moment, my clarity, my mind, my vision becomes so refined. I see what I think, or what I meditate on, or whatever I'm visualizing, whatever I'm imagining to go into. Now, this is also quite, to me, interesting, because when we look at the neurobiology of our existence, now the neuroscience also talking about so they look at ourselves, our energies into the 3 parts. So we got the sympathetic, the active response, adrenaline response. Then we have the parasympathetic, the relaxation response. And then we have the central, the balance, the cortex response. And he says that we all are going through the cycle between the right and left. So for the cycle, your left side brain is active, so your right body is active. Then there is a cycle where right brain is active, your left side is dominating. And in that way, when left side controls or regulates your body, then you breathe through the right nostril. When the right brain controls, your predominantly breath goes through the left nostril. Now, the science does not really have much of what happens to it, but the yoga has its own detail about it. So when these two come to the balance, then the energy gets discharged into the central nervous system. And this is again the science, the neurobiology also says that it happens between 60 to 90-minute cycle. And they say it can be anywhere from 40 seconds up to 3 minutes in each individual. And our body naturally does it to recharge our brain. So your brain doesn't get tired. It's almost like it discharges an abundance of energy between the two parts of your brain into this cortex part where it just feels, okay, I'm ready again. I can carry on my physiological, my psychic, psychological, and energetic activities as I was performing. So in that way, your meditation is to return back through these practices and find a little bit more energy to flow or to discharge into your nervous system. And this is why you just feel like, wow, I just feel like zing. And the yogis, I would recommend, you should not really do a long meditation practices, pranayama practices in the evenings. Because if you do, you are going to struggle to sleep because your nervous system is abundantly recharged. And this is one of the reasons we always do satsangs to finish. Putting enough information that makes you feel tired and like, okay, I can go to sleep. So coming back to, sort of how we all experience meditation, which you all do. But because the way we have explained and way we understood the meditation experience, we don't recognize those little experiences which can help you to build your foundation. I can start with Catherine. And I'm sure some of you else got too. You got the lovely dog. And I don't know if you can go back at some point when you got him and you're trying to train him to do certain things and you're trying to make him to behave in a certain way and it's not working. And then suddenly one of the day, you're just having a bit of chill time and you're feeling like not sure about things. And then he comes to you and he just does that trick. He does that flip or whatever it is you're trying to trick him into. What would you feel for next 10 seconds? And that is the experience of meditation. Yeah, come on.
I thought you were going to ask me to try and express it, but it's
please do. Yeah, why not?
Well, now I was thinking, how do I put that into words? But it's joyous.
Yeah.
It's the best word I can.
So when your mind becomes thoughtless, what's there is only experience. But for me, for us all together here, when we all walk down to the river, if you can catch on the first 10 seconds of your experience, because we were all having this, like, when do we get to see it? And we were using the ropes, we were sitting there doing different things, and suddenly you see it alive. There is a moment, isn't it? And to me, the meditation, really, to whatever practice you take, we are trying to catch up on that moment when there is only experience. Or some of you like going out for a walk. And maybe you sort of looking for a bird and you haven't seen that bird for ages. And then suddenly that bird begins to fly in front of you. Can you explain that experience? It's very hard, isn't it? Because I is not there. The me is not there. Expectation is not there. It's just only pure experience. And to me, meditation is to build on that experience. Or you made a nice meal, some of you love cooking, and then you just sat down and somehow it just worked out a perfect meal, and you just have the first in your mouth and you're just chewing it and like that, that moment. And I would like you all to look into those little experiences, because that will give you that you not only have the ability, you experience it. But we have tagged meditation, we have tagged these practices to something too far beyond. It's almost like, I guess, our expectations are so big that what we do, what we live, what we experience, it seems to be, doesn't make any sense to us because it's not important. And everything that maybe we cannot live, we cannot do, whatever reason it is, becomes so much more important. It's like, if you go to a party or a wedding or something, and I personally find it really annoying. That's one of the things I find really annoying, when you gone with half of your family, other family could not go, or one friend went, other one, everyone just talk about the person who did not go. And the people who are there, to me, meditation is absorption in what is there. You're not missing out what's not there. And when you can look into that, then I'm sure you all will see how many these glimpsing experiences we have. To me, the Dharna Dhyan, if you want to build on it, you got to accumulate these glimpsing experiences, where you're glimpsing into something that is beyond the experience of your senses. As Catherine said, when you have that blissful experience, your senses, your intelligence cannot explain it. And I guess for me also, your intelligence does not need to explain it, does it? It's just something to experience, something to then build onto it. And I also kind of, in my own experience, it's something that when you experienced it, please don't get obsessed with it. As earlier I was talking about the bird, because then every time you go for a walk, don't get so obsessed that my walk will only be worth if I get to see that bird again. And if you do that, well, you're missing out every leaf, every grass, every little creature, the life that is there. And this is what the yogi says, when you have these glimpses, experiences of meditation and these practices, don't get caught up in them. Keep moving forward, keep moving upward. So these are your milestones. They are not the end goal. Don't sit down and like, I have achieved it. Yes, they are milestones that tell you you've experienced something, you are going on a right path and a right practice, but keep moving forward. And keep building on it, building onto it. And then the idea, this concept of letting go, a surrender. And to me, that is actually the most difficult practice, because we are so conditioned into a doer, somebody who has to do, somebody who has to take action, somebody who has to have the control, somebody who has to be the judge or who has to be judged. This is something we feel all the time, like somebody judging me or I'm judging somebody. But remember this aspect of your yoga, your sadhana, we even have to let go of that. You cannot experience the inner quietness with a judgmental mind. Either you judging yourself or you feeling that somebody else is judging you. You will have to create a safe space. Now, to me, one of the essence of the teaching on meditation and this aspect, when we're trying to understand it, I actually do really love the teachings of Lord Krishna, the way he explains in Bhagavad Gita. Because it gives us, I guess, every aspect that we need. Now, he begins with, when he talks about the Dhyana Marga, the path of meditation in Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna said, yeah, Krishna, I understand this, but what do I do? So he said, choose a comfortable posture, one of the asana, hold your spine straight, your danda erect, upright, uttana. And then he said, half close your eyes and gaze your mind at tip of your nose. Now, I think until recently, I never understood why it is tip of nose. But now I got the idea, because I was reading a couple of lessons on neuroscience and our perception, and I really get idea why tip of nose. Because your tip of nose, you would not believe, it's always in your eyesight. So every time you're looking at something, your tip of nose is in every picture. If you think of your eyes as a camera, it's in every picture. What it's doing, it's zooming out, or it's doing the cropping, your brain somewhere doing the cropping, that you don't ever see the nose. Every picture your eyes are taking and sending it, unless you're really looking up, away from your nose, your eyes are taking image of your nose in everything. So he said, let's gaze on something that is already there. So in a way, actually focusing on something we are used to ignore. We are used to filter that out of our perception. But to me, I also see it, another lesson in it, another teaching, that this meditation, this inner quietness, inner tranquility, inner joy, bliss, whatever you want to experience, it's already there like your nose. So stop running away to find out that peace. Come there, come there. So he said, come to the tip of your nose. And then he sort of takes it to the next level. He said, well, then focus your mind, pay your mind, your attention to your breath. Just watch, observe, notice your breath, how your breath goes in, how your breath goes out. It's such a good practice, isn't it? When you think of the holistic way, tip of nose, that's always there, but we somehow not seeing it. And in the breath, we are continuously inhaling the universe and exhaling that I. There is a great communication, energy exchange happening between you and the universe. And also we have the active action and the relaxation, nispanda response happening there too. So he said, pay attention to your breath on tip of your nose. Now I found interesting here. So when he said, Krishna said that, then Arjuna looked at Krishna and he said, Krishna, I got your idea, your practice, but the problem here, he said, every time I try to focus my mind on my nose and my breath, it seems to be suddenly I'm getting more thoughts than before. He said, I thought I was much more calm and peaceful before I got to this focus. And Krishna said, oh, it's not the practice is giving birth to these thoughts. It's just you are developing awareness to it. You're suddenly noticing what's going on there. And then you know what he said? Well, all you need to do, every time you find your mind wandering around into those thoughts, into those chittavrittis, the whirlpools of your mind, kindest possible way, without judging and without telling yourself off for being harsh, just literally, softly come back to your nose and your breath and start all over again. And he said, if your mind wanders now 9,999,000 times away, bring it back 100,000 times. And he said, during or through that process, one day you will master it. One day you will master your focus. And to me, I think it's such a kind lesson for all of us to realize we need to stop beating ourselves. I cannot focus my mind. I cannot do my breath. I cannot do my pranayama. Or every time I try to just visualize something, feel something, my mind just, and it gets worse and worse. Oh, he said, just be nice and kind to yourself and gently and softly come back. The second thing to me, when you're going on the path of the Dharna, Dhyana, and concentration, keep simple things simple. I think to me, making things complex, not only in meditation, but even in life itself. You see, we like making things complex. We don't like simple and straight things. But really the meditation, this concentration meditation, is to develop that ability to simplicity, refinement. That there is no complex story, there is no complex system. But somehow, if somebody just tells, I think from my experience, I've been through some of these sort of typical gurus and sadhus in India, and some of them just tell you, just like sit straight and listen the nada of your swara. So which translates, just sit still and focus or listen the sound of your breath. Now, I don't know how many of you, if I begin to just teach you some of those practices. Okay, so today's lesson, let's sit still and just listen the sound of your breath, and we're done for today. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Or some of these teachers will, I'll see you when you have mastered that, and let's talk about the next thing. I think so far we are working on our life. We are working on evolving our life processes, our life activities. But from here, if you want to go deep in it, we have to come to that point where we take much, much more simpler practices. Or practice can be, let's just have a day to day and keep noticing every thought you get. And don't make complex out of it. And I like, the thing with Sandhya, I was telling you the book of Ram Sukdas, the Gita Press, Gorakhpur. It's better you just, if you Google it, there got to be Gita Press bookstore somewhere near you to buy it instead of online.
I'm in Pune, so I'll find out.
Yeah, there got to be a Gita Press Gorakhpur bookstore somewhere.
Okay.
Anyway, why am I bringing him up here? Ram Sukdas. And I love one of his story about when you coming to this phase of your sadhana, you got to keep simple things simple. Don't make complex out of them. I really love the story, and hopefully you all will have a laugh when I come to the end of the story. So this story is actually, he talks about one of the sadhu, or one of this like a grandfather who would do the satsangs in India. He will go and do this bhajans and singing, and then he will talk about some of the virtues. And now and then he would encourage his grandson, his children to come with him. So what will happen then? The mother and the child, so his daughter-in-law and the son that he had, he really wanted him to get into it. And the son, the grandson, he was only like 3 or 4 years old. I think, Sandhya, can we mute you, please?
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, I was like, what's the helicopter coming? So we were trying to see it in the forest.
The motorcycle, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So now sometime he will invite his grandson so he can hopefully pick up from him. So his daughter-in-law and the grandson came to the satsang. Now, these kids, because, being on the stage with your parent or your grandfather, it's a big thing. Like when I have Krishna with me, here in the satsangs, he would always like to sit on my knee, and he feels like almost like if I am the one doing it. So this grandson somehow managed to sneak in and said, "Granddad, do you mind if I be with you?" And for grandparents, for parents, it's fine. Just come and have a seat here. So he actually sat by the grandfather in the satsang. Now, this poor little child, poor little guy, after half an hour of satsang or something, suddenly he had the urge to go for toilet. And now think you are sitting by this guru, this master, and there's a big microphone there, all these, and everyone can hear. And he just comes near grandfather and whispers to him, said, "Granddad, I think I need toilet." And then he echoes through the whole thing, isn't it? And now this poor granddad, he's talking about Siva and the enlightenment and liberation. And suddenly I need toilet. He felt very embarrassed. Now, obviously, the mother sort of suddenly comes in, took him away. And then, the satsang finishes and he come back home. And he was very upset, and he take a class. He sort of tells his son and the daughter-in-law of like, can't you educate your son properly? He doesn't know what to talk in middle of the satsang. And then obviously these kids, Indian kids, they kind of like, well, Dad, we totally understand what you're saying. Well, he's your grandson too. So there you go. You educate him the way you like. So they left him. Now this granddad, like, anytime we are on a stage next time, please, my dear child, can you not talk like, I need to go to toilet? And the grandson is just like, boy looking at him like, what do I say? I just need a toilet. He said, next time, if you need it on the stage, just say, can I sing a bhajan? So he changed it. So everyone like, wow, look at this little boy. He wants to sing bhajans too with the granddad. Now, honestly, this boy took that practice very seriously. Now, a couple of days later, the parents came to the granddad and said, oh, granddad, we got this wedding or this function, or maybe we want to go and watch a movie. Here you go, your grandson, we will see you tomorrow, or we'll see you in a couple of days. And in India, it's quite a common practice. You would not even have to make an appointment, okay? Like in the Europe, we got a bit different setup. The granddad were like, fine. So they had a good time and they went to bed. Now it's midnight, okay? That's where the story begins. Now this poor boy again woke up and he's sort of like trying to wake up granddad. He said, granddad, I think I need to sing a bhajan. Now granddad, just like half sleep, half awake, he said, this is not the time to sing a bhajan, is it? And he said, it's not only me, we live, we kind of like got this ashram running. There are other people sleeping. Let's just be quiet now and we'll sing it in the morning. Well, the poor child thought, maybe I just need to hold on to it, just managed to squeeze in, and he's like, okay, I will try to do it in the morning. How long a child can hold it? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? And he can't sleep. So he took his granddad up again and said, granddad, I think I need to sing the bhajan now. And then again, poor granddad, he said, set him up again like we all do. And third time he woke up and he said, look, granddad, I have to sing the bhajan now. It's just coming out. He said, it's just coming out. It's just coming out. I can't hold it. Poor granddad, he's just thinking, wow, my grandson must be getting enlightened, because that's what happens when the bhajan's coming. So the granddad got so annoyed. He said, look, you have already taken my sleep off. I'm already awake. So why don't you just gently sing it in my ears? And I can tell you, and then the Ram Sukdas said, this is what we do with the spirituality. We make complicated things of every little thing. Obviously, I don't want to talk about the story, what happened next, okay? You all can visualize it. But to me, this aspect of yoga, you would have to simplify things. You would have to have that purity. You would have to have the refinement. If you're looking at the flame of the candle, just look at the flame of candle without having all this. Do I have to sing a bhajan instead of saying, I just need to run to toilet? So when you're gazing at the flame, when you go gazing at a statue of a Lord Shiva or whatever it is, you're gazing your mind at the breath. You're gauging your mind at your solar plexus, or maybe your crown. I don't know, maybe the mantra Om or Satchitananda. You got to let go of all this fabrication. The things need to be made special. So coming to that point, that is to me the path of understanding and practicing your Dharna, Dhyana and Samadhi. Refining yourself so the more and more become less and less. And then ultimately this less becomes nothing. And this is what in Sankhya, in yoga, it talks about. Ultimately, there is nothing to experience. And this is why really many yogis, whoever went into it, they talk about samadhi, but then no one ever came back and tell you what it experienced to be like. They just say the experience is experience of nothingness. Like in Yoga Vasistha, we have this beautiful contemplative practice becomes with koham, koham, koham. It's such a step-by-step practice of your dharana, dhyan, and your samadhi. Now, obviously, there again, to me, this illusion that we all create around these things, the minute we say koham, because there's the answer there, soham, I am that divine. And then everyone like, I'm that divine, I'm a yogi, I'm a yogini. Now, in Upanishad, where the Rishi and his disciple, they were having a discussion. So the Guru, he tells his disciple who's sort of seeking, like, I want to be enlightened. What should I do? What is the practice? And he said, go and seek it for yourself. Koham, koham. Who am I? Who am I? And this disciple goes into the forest and spend a couple of months or a couple of years in sadhana. And then he comes back with his realization. And he said, Master, I think I know. And the master said, okay, tell me, what do you know? What have you experienced in your meditation, in your samadhi? He said, oh, your question was koham. Now I know I am this body. And I'm everything that I experience through the body, which can be a father, a son, a brother, a friend, a human being, food, energy, all that he said I experience. The Guru looked at him and he said, wow, I'm so happy for you. He said, go back and seek it for yourself, koham. Because I guess, yes, it is the first answer to your meditation. Your journey begins with your physical body, your physical reality. Your physical reality is the manifestation of your body. And really, if I want to experience anything about that, I would have to experience it through my body. It's the door, it's the entry to it. So the disciple goes back and he goes back into his meditation and contemplate and self-inquiry. And after a few months, he comes back. So the first one was dehoham. So means I am the body. Then he comes back and he said manoham, manoham. I am the mind. I am the mind field that experiences everything, that has the information, the intelligence, feelings, emotions, and all that. Which I guess we all can see that. Who are we? Our first existence is the body, then second existence is the mind. And to me, ultimately, if you think of your personality itself, what is your personality? It's the expression of your body and your mind together. That's how people know us, and that's how we know ourselves. The Guru was very happy, like, oh, I'm so happy for you, but go back and seek it for yourself, koham. Koham. Well, this time he goes back, because then you sort of thinking of the relation between your body and mind, and then you begin to feel that there is a energy, there is a drive force behind both of these. It's the subtle, the vital current, the energy. If you don't have energy, your mind doesn't function. If you don't have energy, your body doesn't function. How lethargic we feel if you are not charged up with energy, if the prana is not there. So he realizes that actually the body and mind are just the instrument. The driving force of these two is the prana. So his realization, third realization he comes with pranoham. I am the prana. I am this vital, the cosmic, this collective energy. And he comes back. He comes back to the Guru, and Guru was again very happy. He said, I'm so happy for you, but I'd like you to go back and seek it for yourself. Koham, koham, who am I? That means the disciple begin to think. So if my Guru is saying it, it means I'm not the body, and I'm not the mind, and neither the prana. Because the prana is also the instrument, isn't it? It's the vehicle, it's the force that your vehicle need to live, to experience. And that's where he transcends these three, and then he splits into experiencing the witnessing awareness. Which I guess if you all begin to think, we are talking about it, we are trying to understand it, we are trying to practice it. But what is that element in you that is trying to experience it, trying to visualize it, trying to see, trying to experience it? And that's where he comes back with the Soham. I am that, I'm that awareness, I'm that consciousness, the witnessing, the Sakshi Bhava, that witnesses or experience everything. And he said, I am in it, but I'm not of it. Even though you're in everything, but everything has nothing to do with you. The Guru said, I'm so happy for you. I would like you to go back again and follow the path of self-inquiry, seek it for yourself to find out Koham. And I guess the poor disciple, he was really confused. He thought that I have ultimately experienced everything. He goes back and then he goes into the deep meditation. It's sort of contemplative sadhana again. And then he realized, actually, if I let go of that I, that is trying to experience, that is trying to create the experience and observe or witness it, when that witnessing or observing awareness also merges into the experience, then I don't exist. It becomes no-hum. So let's try to simplify it now for people like me, okay? For simple people like me who cannot be too intellectual. Now, when I'm looking from the I in the universe, the individual, that I existence of my body, my mind, my energy, and the awareness seems to be very important, isn't it? I exist. I exist in this universe. I exist on this point of the earth. But if I can zoom out and look at me from the perspective of the universe, do I exist in the universe, or does the universe exist in me? Is the I exist, or your hand exists individually, or your eyes and hands are just part of your body? So when we let go of that duality, my hand, my eyes, my foot, my heart, my mind, my consciousness, then you suddenly realize that the I individually does not exist. It does not have individual existence without the cosmic consciousness or the cosmic universe. It only exists from the perspective of our individual mind. From the collective perspective, it doesn't. I don't know, for me also in day-to-day life, think of a team. If each individual take too much importance on individual, there is no team, is it? So to me, seeing the individual is the Soham in the spiritual context. I'm talking about a very higher level. And then when that individual dissolves and see that I am just a part of this universe. I don't have the individual existence. I'm part of a big picture, the big drama of this stage, this universe. And I guess we all are. Really, we all are, even though we think that we are doing this, that, and we are, I know we are all making mess in some form. We are all doing some good things. But when you look at that from the universal picture, when you zoom out into that, then we are just playing the part into the chaos. And I think to me, I would say, if you can all have a minute to go on YouTube or whatever, wherever you watch, it's worth to watch what electrons and the protons and neutrons are doing in an atom. Okay? They just like jiggity jaggedy. I don't know if I can do faster than that, all over the place in the atom. And there is actually a total chaos. And that chaos is being held in an atom. It makes that atom what it is. So in that chaos, if you look into that term, how you and me can be one of the electron or one of the proton. Yes, we are abundance of energy. In that proton, that's where the kundalini, that nuclear explodes, and this absolute energy sort of is there in each of us as the electron, as a proton, as a neutron, because we are the unit. And when that explodes, when that awakens, there is this abundance of experience. And when that dissolves, when that goes, we come to the experience of no-hum, the nothingness. Because then the individual does not have the existence individually. And this is why when we talk about the absolute experiences of Brahmananda or Sat Chit Ananda, the easiest way to experience it is by connecting through other people. Because while I'm trying to experience the joy in me, I only experience what I experience through my ego, my senses. Look at all the universal prayers we do, we're chanting Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And when you go into the essential Upanishads, we're chanting 3 times. So we're chanting the first one for the higher worlds. Anything that exists above, into the eternal, into the transcendental universe, let it be in peace. Then you're saying second Shanti is for the physical world, the world we exist in. And then third one is for the lower world or the life that exists below our consciousness. You didn't say, can I have a peace? Because when you experience the peace, the bliss in the connectedness, you become part of that vibration. You become part of the resonance. So to me also meditation is sort of rising above that I-ness, that me, that ahankara, the ego, the self, into the ananda. And that ananda comes when the I becomes less and less. The minute you say, I meditate, the I need to go. And this is what Swamiji said. He said the Samayama path, the Dharna, Dhyana and Samadhi is the path where you are taking all the tools to operate your ego. That's the first step, he says, people need to do. You got to slice away the layers of your ego. Because otherwise your ego in your meditation is the biggest obstacle. And then he said the second layer we need to go is letting go of the layer of our mind, information we all accumulated. All this preconceived, all the experiences, everything we've gone through. And he said that has to happen at some point. Now, in that path of meditation, obviously, quite interestingly, I like the fact, which I don't know how much truth in it, because I haven't really counted that far yet, but he said you, me, we all have 84 million evolutionary lifetimes to master this. Which I think is quite a nice statement to have in our mind, because that means gradually we are all going nearer and nearer. Even maybe if you're not trying anything, still you are on that path of evolution, path of self-realization. Well, I don't know, some of you might have already done most of it. This may be the last one, or this may be the first one. Either way, you are on that path. That's what the yoga says. You are moving upward, onward, and nearer to that path of evolution.